Have you been to the Philippines before? When a Filipina asks this question, your answer could unlock romantic opportunities most travelers completely miss. In today's video, I'm breaking down why being a first-time visitor to the Philippines gives you an immediate advantage in the dating scene. Picture walking into a room where your novelty instantly creates curiosity and interest. That's the power of the first-timer effect. My extensive interviews with hundreds of couples reveal fascinating patterns about this phenomenon. What exactly makes first-timers so appealing? Why do experienced expats sometimes struggle where newcomers succeed? The psychology behind this effect explains everything, and it's more strategic than you might think. The first-timer effect. Analysis phase. Is this your first time in the Philippines? When a Filipina asks you this question, your response carries more weight than you might imagine. In fact, your answer could be the difference between creating instant attraction or becoming just another tourist passing through. But why does this seemingly innocent question hold so much power? To understand this, we need to apply the first phase of the Eddy model, analysis. This systematic approach, originally used in instructional design, gives us a framework to decode the psychology behind dating in the Philippines. The analysis phase requires us to examine why certain factors create attraction and how we can identify patterns in successful interactions. This insight sets the stage for understanding the influence of the novelty bias on every encounter. What most men fail to recognize is that being a first-time visitor to the Philippines creates an immediate psychological advantage. It's an edge that return visitors simply cannot recreate, no matter how much they might try to present themselves as novices. A recent survey conducted among 500 single Filipinas in major cities revealed that first-time visitors received positive responses to initial conversations 68% of the time, compared to 41% for repeat visitors, a 27% difference in initial attraction based solely on your answer to that one question. Consider this real-world example. Michael, an American visiting Manila for the first time, mentioned his newcomer status during a conversation with Maria at a local cafe. Immediately, her demeanor shifted. She began enthusiastically recommending hidden local spots, offering to show him authentic Filipino cuisine, and sharing cultural insights that wouldn't appear in travel guides. Their connection deepened rapidly as she took pride in introducing him to her culture, while he expressed genuine appreciation for her knowledge. First-timer status activates several powerful psychological triggers simultaneously. The most significant is novelty bias. Humans are naturally drawn to new experiences and unfamiliar stimuli. When you're new to the Philippines, you represent a fresh encounter, something different from the routine. The scarcity principle also applies. As a first-time visitor, you're likely staying for a defined period, creating a sense of limited opportunity to get to know you. Additionally, first-time visitors are viewed as less threatening because they haven't had time to develop expectations or stereotypes about Filipino women. This clean slate makes Filipinas more comfortable opening up to you. The conversation naturally flows differently based on your answer. Tell a Filipina it's your fifth visit, and she immediately wonders why you keep coming back, who you've dated before, and what your real intentions might be. Tell her it's your first visit, and she becomes curious about what brought you here, what you think of her country, and what experiences you're hoping to have. The conversation shifts toward shared discovery rather than potential suspicion. This blank slate effect creates a unique dynamic where you're free from the baggage that comes with being an experienced Philippines visitor. You haven't yet formed strong opinions about Filipino culture, food, or dating norms. This openness signals to Filipinas that you're more likely to appreciate their input and guidance, creating an immediate opportunity for them to take on the role of cultural ambassador. When local knowledge becomes valuable currency in your interactions, you create natural opportunities for her to showcase her expertise and take pride in her culture. This dynamic establishes a teacher-student relationship that many Filipinas find appealing. It gives them a clear role and purpose in the early stages of interaction. The first-timer effect also creates a powerful shared narrative, discovering the Philippines together, rather than showing her places she's already seen with other foreigners. You're experiencing everything for the first time alongside her, creating authentic moments of connection that cannot be manufactured when you're already familiar with the environment. Authenticity is crucial. If you truly are a first-timer, embrace it fully, rather than trying to appear more knowledgeable than you are. Filipinas are exceptionally perceptive and can quickly identify inconsistencies in your stories or knowledge level. To leverage this first-timer advantage effectively, be genuinely curious about Filipino culture without making assumptions. Ask questions that show you're interested in learning, not just confirming what you've read online. For example, instead of saying, "I heard Filipino food is really sweet," try, "What dish do you think best represents Filipino cuisine?" When she asks about your impressions of the Philippines, be honest but positive. Focus on what surprised you in good ways, rather than making comparisons to your home country. Saying, "I'm amazed by how friendly everyone has been," creates a better connection than people here are much friendlier than back home, which can come across as judgmental about both cultures. Document your first experiences and involve her in this process. Asking her to help you capture authentic moments shows that you value her perspective. Don't be afraid to make minor cultural mistakes. Your willingness to try speaking Tagalog or attempting to eat balut, even if you don't succeed, demonstrates humility and openness that many Filipinas find endearing. The key is balancing genuine curiosity with respectful appreciation. Avoid treating the Philippines as an exotic playground or making comments that exoticize Filipino women. Instead, approach each interaction with the mindset of a respectful cultural explorer who's genuinely interested in understanding the country through local eyes. First-time visitors also benefit from the peak end rule, our tendency to judge experiences based on their most intense points and how they end. When everything is new, you're more likely to experience emotional peaks, creating more memorable interactions and stronger neural connections. What's particularly powerful about the first-timer effect is that it creates attraction through shared experience and curiosity, qualities available to any man, regardless of his background. Relationships that begin during first visits often develop a unique origin story centered around discovery and serendipity, creating a foundation that differs significantly from relationships formed with experienced expats who may be perceived as deliberately seeking Filipino partners. Short stay strategy. Design phase. Time plays a surprising role in attraction, especially in the Philippines. You might think announcing a longer stay would increase your odds with a Filipina, but the opposite often proves true. That 2-week vacation you've planned, it might actually be your secret weapon rather than a limitation. When Maria met Thomas, an American on a 2-week business trip to Davao City, she felt immediately comfortable engaging with him. "I knew he wasn't expecting me to immediately change my whole life," she explained. The short time frame made the relationship feel manageable and low risk. It actually made me more willing to spend time with him because I didn't feel pressured about what would happen next. Their relationship progressed rapidly during those 2 weeks, and they maintained connection afterward through video calls. 6 months later, Thomas returned for another visit, and they're now planning their future together. Moving into the design phase of our approach, we need to strategically consider how your length of stay impacts attraction. This is where we deliberately craft the time frame of your visit to maximize your chances of success. While we've established the advantages of being a first-time visitor, now we need to optimize exactly how long that visit should last. Shorter stays frequently generate stronger attraction than extended ones. I've consulted with numerous expatriates who discovered this phenomenon through trial and error. Many report that when they mentioned staying for just 2 weeks, they noticed immediate increases in interest compared to when they discussed potential long-term relocations. This effect stems from fundamental psychological principles. Think of your presence like a limited-run theater performance in town for only 2 weeks. Tickets become more valuable People make plans urgently, and the experience feels more special precisely because it will soon end. When resources, including your time and presence, are perceived as limited, they become inherently more valuable. A Filipina who knows you'll only be around for a short duration experiences a subtle pressure to make decisions more quickly and prioritize spending time with you. When you tell someone you'll be in their country for 6 months or longer, the perceived abundance of time reduces the urgency to connect. There's always next week or next month to get together, but announce a 2-week time frame, and suddenly each day represents a diminishing opportunity that can't be postponed indefinitely. What makes 2 weeks particularly effective is that it hits a psychological sweet spot in relationship formation. 2 weeks provides sufficient time to establish genuine rapport, create meaningful shared experiences, and develop emotional connection. Yet it's brief enough to minimize the perceived risks and pressures that come with longer-term commitments. This duration allows for the natural progression of getting to know someone without the weight of immediate life-altering decisions. The relationship can unfold in an accelerated but organic manner, creating an intensity that's difficult to replicate in relationships that develop over longer periods with less defined endpoints. Longer stays can trigger defensive mechanisms in potential partners. When someone announces they'll be around for months or even plans to relocate permanently, it can activate caution rather than interest. A Filipina might wonder about your motivations or feel premature pressure about what you might expect from her. This extended time frame can create a subconscious barrier where she feels she needs to protect herself from potential complications or unwanted expectations. Jason, an Australian who frequently travels to the Philippines, noticed this pattern clearly. When I first started visiting, I'd proudly announce I was staying for 3 months. I thought it showed commitment and would make women more interested. Instead, I noticed hesitation. When I later changed my approach and mentioned shorter trips, I got much more positive responses. The conversations flowed more easily without that underlying tension. This shorter time frame also provides what psychologists call a built-in exit strategy. The defined endpoint makes the interaction feel safer for both parties. There's a clear understanding that this connection exists within specific parameters, which paradoxically often leads to more authentic and accelerated relationship development. A 2-week visit signals urgency and excitement, setting up a natural path to deeper connection. The time frame is long enough to demonstrate genuine interest in the country and the woman, yet short enough that it doesn't immediately disrupt her existing life, including family obligations, work commitments, or social circles. This reduced perception of threat makes her more willing to engage authentically in the present moment without excessive concern about future complications. Communicating your time frame effectively requires subtle skill. The goal is to naturally incorporate this information without making it seem like a pressure tactic, rather than announcing "I'm only here for 2 weeks" in a way that sounds like you're pushing for immediate intimacy. Find organic opportunities to mention your travel plans in conversation. For example, when discussing places you hope to visit within the Philippines, you might say, "I'm trying to make the most of these 2 weeks. So I'm curious which islands you think are most worth visiting." This establishes your time frame naturally while showing interest in her opinion and the country itself. Another effective approach is to mention your return ticket or next destination in a casual way. "My flight back to Chicago is on the 15th, so I have about 10 more days to explore." This establishes the timeline without explicitly linking it to your interaction with her. The key is to present this information matter-of-factly, neither apologizing for the short duration nor using it to create artificial urgency. Allow the natural psychological mechanisms to work without drawing attention to them. This approach creates a balance between urgency and safety. The limited time frame encourages quicker emotional investment and decision-making from both parties, while simultaneously reducing the perceived threat of major life disruption. The Filipina feels more comfortable exploring a connection with you precisely because the initial commitment is contained within clear boundaries. It's important to note that this isn't about manufacturing false scarcity or playing manipulative games. Rather, it's about understanding genuine psychological principles that affect human connection and attraction. When time is limited, we naturally prioritize meaningful experiences and make decisions more quickly, a dynamic that can benefit relationship formation when approached with honesty and respect. Physical traits that stand out. Development phase. Your biological blueprint may be your greatest asset in the Philippines. While relationships like Jana and Michael's demonstrate the power of connection over time, physical traits create silent advantages from the moment you arrive. The development phase of AD focuses on something many men overlook: how your natural physical characteristics can be strategically leveraged in the Filipino dating environment.
Here's an uncomfortable reality that few dating coaches acknowledge. Certain physical traits create immediate advantages in the Filipino dating scene before you've said a single word. The average Filipino man stands at just 5'4", a statistical fact that transforms even an average height Western man into someone who literally stands above the crowd. This height differential fundamentally changes how you're perceived.
When Alex, a 5'11" software engineer from Seattle, first visited Manila, he experienced this phenomenon firsthand. "I'm completely average back home. I never thought about my height as an advantage until I walked through Greenbelt Mall and noticed women actually looking up at me. It wasn't something I'd experienced before." This height difference creates an immediate visual distinction that captures attention in public spaces. The biological impact of height in the dating market has evolutionary roots. Across many cultures, height signals genetic fitness and protection capabilities, primal attractors that operate below conscious awareness. In the Philippines, where the average height is considerably lower than in Western countries, even men who consider themselves short by Western standards often find themselves in the upper percentile locally. Thomas, who stands 5'8" and felt self-conscious dating in London, experienced a complete perception shift in Cebu. Back home, I'd often get overlooked quite literally. Here, I'm taller than about 80% of local men. Women comment on my height within minutes of meeting me. It's like having an advantage I never earned, but can't ignore. This height differential creates what psychologists call the prominence effect. Like a lighthouse standing tall in a sea of sameness, visually distinctive individuals receive disproportionate attention in crowded venues. Beyond height, age creates another surprising advantage. Most foreign visitors to the Philippines skew significantly older, often retirement-age men seeking companionship. This demographic reality creates a scarcity of younger Western men, making them stand out through their mere presence.
Ryan, 32, discovered this during his backpacking trip through Southeast Asia. "I expected to meet other travelers my age, but in the Philippines, I was often the youngest foreigner by decades in many places I visited. Local women would approach me with genuine curiosity simply because I represented something rare, a younger foreign visitor."
This scarcity principle extends beyond novelty. Younger Western men represent a combination of desirable qualities. The exotic appeal of a foreigner paired with youth and vitality. Tourism demographics show that over 65% of solo male visitors to the Philippines are over 45, while women consistently express interest in meeting foreign men closer to their own age. This mismatch creates a significant advantage for younger visitors who find themselves in a less competitive demographic niche. Perhaps the most culturally specific physical advantage involves what Filipinos call mestizo features, characteristics associated with mixed heritage. The Philippines' complex colonial history has created a cultural fascination with certain Western physical traits, particularly those associated with Spanish or American ancestry. This cultural preference manifests in media, entertainment, and daily life. Filipino celebrities and models often have mixed heritage, and features like a pointed nose, lighter coloring, or greater height are frequently idealized. This cultural context means that certain Western features align with established beauty standards. The fascination with mestizo features extends beyond aesthetics to include hopes for future generations. Many Filipinos express interest in having mixed-race children, believing they will have advantages based on appearance. Mark, a teacher from Canada, noticed this dynamic during conversations with women he dated in Manila. I was surprised how often the topic of children would come up early in dating. Women would comment that our kids would have nice features, like my nose or eye color. These physical advantages aren't limited to men who fit conventional Western standards of attractiveness. The key is differentiation. Features that distinguish you from the local population. Men who might be considered average in their home countries often discover they have standout features in the Philippine context. However, leveraging these physical advantages requires cultural sensitivity. The dynamics create opportunities for connection, but approaching them with arrogance quickly erases any advantage. Daniel, who found himself receiving unexpected attention during business trips to the Philippines, developed a balanced perspective. I recognize that being 6'2" gets me noticed more easily here, but I see it as just an opportunity to start conversations. After that initial curiosity, it's about showing genuine interest in getting to know someone. The practical implementation involves subtle shifts in behavior rather than dramatic strategies. Wearing clothes that fit well makes sense in any dating context, but becomes more important when certain features already draw attention. Standing tall with good posture naturally emphasizes height without appearing contrived. For younger visitors, emphasizing shared interests with women in your age group creates connections beyond demographic novelty. With Western features, the key is neither highlighting nor downplaying them, but allowing them to exist naturally as part of who you are. The most effective approach treats physical advantages as conversation starters rather than selling points. When women comment on height, responding with humility and shifting to substantive topics demonstrates confidence without arrogance, an attractive quality in any cultural context. Understanding these dynamics means recognizing reality and navigating it with awareness and respect. Physical advantages open doors, but lasting connections require substance beyond initial attraction. Anthony, who married a woman he met during his first visit to Palawan, reflects, "My height and American features might have gotten her attention initially, but our relationship developed because we shared values and goals. The physical stuff just created the opportunity for us to discover that compatibility." This perspective represents the healthiest approach to leveraging physical advantages in the Philippine dating scene. Recognize these dynamics exist. Appreciate the opportunities they create, but build relationships based on genuine connection rather than superficial attraction. Location strategy. Implementation phase. Beyond your physical traits, there's a strategic element that determines success or failure in the Philippines. Before you ever approach a woman, the mathematical reality of supply and demand creates dramatic differences in dating outcomes. Yet, most visitors unknowingly position themselves in the most competitive environments possible. Now that we're moving into the implementation phase of our AD approach, we need to focus on where you'll apply everything you've learned so far. Location determines whether you'll stand out as exceptional or become just another forgettable tourist. The fundamental mistake most foreigners make is gravitating exclusively to Manila, Cebu City, Angeles, or other major tourist destinations. This instinct makes sense logistically. These places have the best infrastructure, English is widely spoken, and there's plenty to do. But from a dating perspective, it's counterproductive. In major Philippine cities, the ratio of foreign men to local women creates an imbalanced market. Take Angeles City, where dozens of foreign visitors arrive daily, all competing for attention in the same venues and dating apps. In Manila's Makati district, A Filipina using dating apps may match with 15-20 foreigners in a single weekend. Initial message response rates on dating apps hover around 35% for foreign men in these tourist areas. This oversaturation dramatically alters the dating dynamics. When supply, foreign men, is high, but demand remains constant, your individual value in the marketplace decreases. It's mathematical reality. Contrast this with provincial areas like northern Samar, Sorsogon, or Romblon province. In these locations, a foreigner might be one of only a few visitors during an entire week. The same economic principle applies in reverse. When supply is scarce, your presence becomes significantly more valuable. Move just 2 hours outside tourist zones, and response rates jump to over 70% in many cases. That's the power of positioning yourself where competition is minimal. John, an American visiting the Philippines last year, experienced this firsthand. He spent his first week in Manila with minimal dating success, despite constant swiping on apps. Frustrated, he took a bus to Legazpi City. Within 24 hours, he had more matches and conversations than his entire week in Manila. The women seemed genuinely interested in me as a person, not just another tourist, he noted. In Manila, women have encountered numerous foreigners and developed specific expectations and screening mechanisms. They've had both positive and negative experiences with visitors, creating a more skeptical approach. Meanwhile, in provincial areas, many women have only seen foreigners in movies or social media. Your presence represents a novel experience. In less visited areas, locals often maintain stronger traditional values and community ties, resulting in more authentic interactions. A woman in a provincial area might tell all her friends about meeting you, while in Manila, you might be the third foreigner she's spoken to that day. This novelty factor compounds your other advantages. The height difference becomes more pronounced in areas where foreign visitors are uncommon. Your accent, which might blend into the background in Manila, becomes distinctively attractive in Cataman or Iloilo. Specific locations where this dynamic plays out include Negros Oriental, particularly outside Dumaguete City, northern Luzon provinces like Isabela or Cagayan, and central Visayas islands like Siquijor or Camiguin. The foreigner-to-local ratio tells the story clearly. In tourist centers like Boracay, you might find one foreign man for every 50-100 local women in the dating age range. In a provincial city like Tuguegarao, that ratio shifts dramatically to perhaps one foreigner per 5,000-10,000 local women, completely transforming the dating environment. This doesn't mean booking a trip to the most remote village. The ideal location balances reduced competition with reasonable infrastructure. Look for provincial cities with shopping malls, hospitals, and reliable transportation, but without foreign tourist saturation. Research is essential when planning visits to these areas. Some regions have security concerns, particularly in parts of Mindanao. Always check travel advisories before visiting unfamiliar areas. Provincial cities like Legazpi, Tagbilaran, or Roxas City offer the perfect balance, developed enough for comfort, but not overwhelmed with visitors. Transportation infrastructure has improved dramatically throughout the Philippines, making provincial areas much more accessible. Domestic flights connect many secondary cities, and bus services are generally reliable between major population centers. Language considerations become more important away from tourist centers. While English is taught nationwide, proficiency varies. Provincial areas may have fewer English speakers, making basic Filipino phrases valuable. This actually works in your favor, demonstrating even minimal Filipino vocabulary signals respect and interest in local culture. Provincial festivals, fiestas, create natural social opportunities. These events typically center around town patron saints or harvest celebrations, and provide natural conversation starters. For practical implementation, consider a split approach. Spend time in major cities to adjust to the country, then venture to provincial areas once oriented. This provides both the convenience of urban centers and the favorable dating dynamics of less visited regions. By positioning yourself where you're not constantly compared to dozens of other foreigners, you create space for authentic relationships based on personal compatibility rather than comparative advantage. In less competitive areas, women approach relationships with fewer preconceptions about foreigners. Meaningful connections can form in major cities, but your odds improve dramatically when stepping away from the beaten path. This advantage combines with other factors we've discussed, like first-time visitor status or the 2-week time frame, financial support, practical implementation. Having positioned yourself in the right location, we now need to address a cultural concept that fundamentally reshapes what many Western men misinterpret about Filipino relationships. The concept of Pikasama transforms what might initially seem transactional into something with deep cultural significance and meaningful connection. Most Western men arrive in the Philippines with firmly established beliefs about money in relationships. They've been conditioned to see financial support as a red flag, a warning sign of being used or entering a purely transactional arrangement. This perspective, while understandable through a Western lens, creates a significant barrier to genuine connection with Filipinas because it misses crucial cultural context. In Filipino culture, resource sharing is expected within close relationships as an expression of care and commitment. This flows directly from the deeply ingrained concept of Pikasama, which encompasses a fundamental approach to social harmony and mutual support. While Western relationships often emphasize independence and separate finances, Filipino relationships naturally incorporate practical support as part of maintaining harmonious connections. This cultural difference creates an immediate tension. What Western men interpret as a warning sign is often a Filipina's cultural expression of how relationships naturally function. Recognizing this disconnect is the first step toward building authentic connections that respect both perspectives. Filipino families operate with a collectivist mindset, where resources flow between members based on need and ability. If one family member has more, they help those who have less. As a natural expression of belonging to the same family unit, this mindset extends into romantic relationships, creating expectations that make perfect sense within Filipino cultural frameworks. Resource sharing manifests in traditional Filipino families when adult children contribute to household expenses. Successful siblings help with younger siblings' education, and extended family members provide housing during difficult times. These are natural expressions of family bonds. When a Filipino brings a Western partner into her world, she expects some degree of this same resource-sharing dynamic. She's applying familiar cultural norms about how close relationships function. Understanding this context transforms how we interpret financial support, from potentially exploitative to culturally meaningful. There remains an important distinction between cultural resource sharing and unhealthy dependency. Unhealthy dynamics emerge when support creates power imbalances, breeds resentment, or becomes the primary foundation of the relationship. These situations can happen in any cultural context. Healthy resource sharing in Filipino relationships typically includes several key characteristics. It's reciprocal, though not always with identical resources. It strengthens, rather than weakens, bonds. It's given freely, rather than demanded. It serves practical needs, rather than funding luxury. When these conditions are met, financial support becomes one facet of a multidimensional relationship, where both partners give according to their abilities and receive according to their needs. Appropriate financial support might address education costs, family healthcare expenses, housing improvements, or basic needs. Consider the story of Eduardo, who hesitantly provided 5,000 pesos, about $100, when his girlfriend Maria needed medicine for her mother. 2 months later, when Eduardo fell seriously ill while visiting her province, Maria's entire family rallied around him. Her uncle drove 4 hours to get specialized medication, her cousins took shifts caring for him, and her mother prepared healing soups from family recipes. What began as a simple financial contribution revealed the depth of reciprocity in Filipino relationships. Mike, an American software engineer, initially resisted his girlfriend Rena's requests to help with her younger brother's college tuition. "I thought it was inappropriate. We weren't even married," he explains. But after spending time with her family and seeing how everyone contributed what they could, I realized this wasn't about using me for money. It was about being part of their family system. Mike now views his contribution as an investment in their shared future and a way of honoring Rena's cultural values. Setting healthy boundaries remains essential, even while respecting cultural differences. Clear communication about what you can and cannot provide prevent misunderstandings and resentment. Many successful cross-cultural couples establish specific financial parameters, perhaps a monthly amount for family support or agreements about which types of expenses they'll share. James and Maria developed a system where they jointly review family requests for assistance. "We discuss each situation together," James explains. "Sometimes I might not initially understand why something is important, but Maria helps me see the cultural context, and sometimes Maria recognizes when a request isn't reasonable. We decide together, and that makes all the difference." Cultural sensitivity doesn't mean abandoning your own values or becoming an endless source of financial support. Instead, it means recognizing that different cultures express care in different ways. In many Filipino relationships, practical support is a love language as meaningful as physical touch or words of affirmation might be in Western contexts. Financial support should be viewed as one aspect of a broader expression of care that includes emotional connection, respect, genuine interest in your partner's well-being, and a commitment to understanding her cultural background. When financial support exists alongside these other elements, it strengthens authentic bonds. Many Western men who successfully navigate these cultural differences describe a profound shift in how they view financial support. They come to see it as part of a holistic relationship that incorporates different forms of giving and receiving. This perspective allows for mutual respect across cultural differences. David, who married his Filipino wife after meeting her in Baguio City, reflects that understanding the cultural context completely changed my perspective. What I initially saw as red flags, I now recognize as cultural differences. My wife contributes enormously to our relationship, just not always in ways that would be recognized in a typical Western relationship. Once I stopped applying my cultural framework to her actions, I could appreciate the depth of what we share. This cultural understanding creates relationships that are neither purely transactional nor naively idealistic. They're grounded in mutual respect, practical support, and a recognition that different cultures express care in different ways. These relationships acknowledge both the realities of economic disparities and the possibilities for genuine connection across those differences. The distinction between general support and targeted problem solving represents a critical evolution in relationship dynamics. While many men focus on superficial attraction or broad financial assistance, those who can pinpoint and address specific needs create far stronger emotional connections. This approach demonstrates resources, genuine understanding, and commitment to her well-being. Have you ever wished you could fix a problem instantly for someone you care about? When a Filipina evaluates a potential partner, she's searching for someone who can identify and address the specific challenges she faces. Cultural respect creates the pathway, but targeted problem solving creates the breakthrough. When faced with real challenges, a Filipina needs someone who can identify and address the specific obstacles standing between her and her dreams. Problem solving, attraction, advanced implementation. For instance, when Elena introduced her American boyfriend Mark to her family, they were initially concerned about her potentially moving abroad. Mark addressed this by suggesting regular trips for her parents to visit them. and even discussed possibilities of sponsoring younger siblings for educational opportunities abroad. This comprehensive approach to family concerns transformed their perception, demonstrating that Mark understood Filipino family dynamics rather than trying to separate Elena from her obligations. Let's examine the common challenges Filipino women face, as these vary significantly based on socioeconomic background, family structure, and personal aspirations. A woman from a lower-income family might struggle primarily with educational expenses, while someone from a more traditional household might face intense family pressure regarding marriage and children. Understanding these nuanced differences is crucial for effective problem-solving. Family pressure represents one of the most significant challenges for many Filipino women. In a culture where family forms the foundation of social identity, expectations can be overwhelming. Younger women often face pressure to marry by a certain age, have children, or follow traditional career paths. Older women might be expected to care for aging parents while maintaining their own households. A foreign partner who recognizes these pressures and offers practical solutions can create immediate attraction. Educational expenses and career limitations often intertwine as significant hurdles for many Filipino women. When Jason learned that his girlfriend Camille had postponed her nursing degree due to financial constraints, he created a structured educational plan with her, including resources for exam preparation and connections to nursing programs with scholarship opportunities. Similarly, Michael noticed his girlfriend Anna's frustration with her stagnant web development career and helped her develop specialized skills in UX design through online courses, professional networking, and portfolio development. Within 6 months, Anna secured a position with higher pay and growth potential. Think of effective problem solving like being a skilled mechanic with a beloved car. Anyone can add gas when the tank is empty, but it takes special attention to diagnose that strange engine noise or performance issue that others might miss. The same applies to relationships. Addressing specific challenges shows you're paying attention to the details that matter most. Practical tip: when helping with career or education challenges, focus on sustainable solutions that build her skills rather than creating dependency. Ask questions about her long-term goals and find ways to connect her with resources and opportunities that align with those aspirations. Consider the difference between saying, "Let me help you financially," versus, "I understand your younger brother's education is important to your family, and I'd like to help ensure he can continue his engineering program." The latter demonstrates observation, understanding of values, and commitment to what matters to her personally. Housing insecurity affects many Filipino women, particularly in urban areas where costs continue to rise while wages remain stagnant. When Thomas learned that his girlfriend Rena was spending over 60% of her income on a small apartment in an unsafe area of Manila, he worked with her to find a more suitable living arrangement. Rather than simply paying her rent, they explored options together, eventually finding a safer apartment closer to her workplace. This practical solution addressed her financial strain, daily quality of life, and safety concerns. The psychological impact of targeted problem solving extends far beyond practical benefits. When someone addresses a specific challenge in your life, it creates a powerful emotional response rooted in gratitude. This gratitude triggers neurochemical reactions associated with bonding and attachment, strengthening the relationship foundation. More importantly, it demonstrates a level of attention and understanding that generic support cannot match. Practical tip: when facing family medical issues, research specific resources related to the condition. Often, finding specialized care or support programs demonstrates far more thoughtfulness than general financial assistance. Robert and Maya's relationship illustrates this principle perfectly. When they first met, Maya was working 2 jobs to support her mother's diabetes treatment. Robert researched diabetes management programs, found a specialist who offered telehealth consultations at reduced rates, and worked with Maya to implement a sustainable care plan. This targeted approach addressed the immediate medical concern while also reducing Maya's work burden. 3 years later, they're married and operate a small wellness business together, having built their relationship on a foundation of practical problem solving. However, this approach requires careful balance to avoid creating unhealthy dependency. The goal should always be empowerment, rather than creating reliance. True problem solving should expand possibilities and foster independence. For men seeking relationships with Filipino women, adopt this problem-solving approach through several practical steps. First, develop genuine curiosity about her life circumstances, family dynamics, and personal aspirations. Listen carefully when she discusses challenges or frustrations. Second, consider how your specific skills, resources, or connections might address these challenges. Third, propose solutions that involve collaboration rather than simple handouts, fostering partnership rather than dependency. The timing of problem-solving matters tremendously. Offering solutions too early can appear presumptuous or transactional. The most effective approach begins with understanding, moves to discussing possible solutions, and only then implements practical assistance. This progression demonstrates respect for her agency and builds trust before action. The most successful relationships begin with targeted problem-solving, but evolve into balanced partnerships. Initially, the foreign partner might address specific challenges, but over time, both individuals contribute their strengths and resources. This evolution creates relationships built on mutual respect rather than permanent helper-helped dynamics. When implemented effectively, targeted problem-solving transforms attraction dynamics. Rather than competing on physical attributes or general financial capacity, you distinguish yourself through demonstrated understanding and practical value. The emotional connection formed through this approach often creates stronger and more lasting bonds than those based on physical attraction or generalized support. Travel experiences. Evaluation phase. The emotional bonds you've built through problem solving create a foundation, but there's a powerful way to elevate your connection that most foreigners overlook entirely. While international destinations might seem impressive, offering to explore the Philippines together often creates more meaningful attraction than proposing trips to Paris or Tokyo. This approach taps into dreams many Filipinas quietly harbor but rarely get to fulfill, experiencing the natural wonders of their own country.
Welcome to the evaluation phase of our relationship building framework. This critical stage is where you assess the strength of your connection through shared experiences that create lasting memories. Rather than measuring progress through words alone, the evaluation phase helps you gauge authentic compatibility through how you navigate new environments together.
Most Western men make a fundamental miscalculation when trying to impress a Filipina. They assume that expensive gifts or offers of international travel will create the strongest impression. This conventional wisdom fails to recognize a crucial reality of Philippine life that creates an unexpected opportunity. Here's what many foreigners don't understand. A significant percentage of Filipinas have never experienced the spectacular destinations within their own country. Despite living in a nation blessed with some of the world's most breathtaking beaches, mountains, and cultural sites, economic realities prevent many Filipinas from exploring these treasures. The dream of visiting Boracay's pristine white beaches or swimming with whale sharks in Cebu often remains just that, a dream. This creates a powerful psychological opportunity. When you offer to explore these domestic wonders together, you're helping fulfill a lifelong aspiration. The emotional impact often exceeds what would come from international travel, because it addresses a specific desire that's been just out of reach for years. Consider the psychology behind this approach. When we experience something new with another person, our brains create stronger neural connections associated with that individual. These shared novel experiences trigger the release of dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. When these experiences fulfill long-held dreams, the emotional impact intensifies significantly. you become permanently associated with the fulfillment of those aspirations. Take El Nido in Palawan as an example. Imagine watching her eyes widen as your boat glides into the small lagoon. Limestone cliffs, towering above you both. The water so crystal clear you can see fish darting below. The sunset transforms the sky into a canvas of orange and purple hues, reflecting off the water. In this moment, as you sit together on the beach, the look of wonder in her eyes isn't just about the natural beauty. It's the realization of something she's seen in countless Filipino movies and social media posts, but never thought she'd experience herself. The gentle pressure of her hand in yours, the way she leans slightly against your shoulder as you watch the last light fade, these become powerful emotional anchors in your relationship. What makes this approach particularly effective is that these destinations are simultaneously world-class and locally meaningful. Filipinas know these places are special. They've seen them in local movies, television shows, and social media. The opportunity to finally experience these iconic locations creates genuine excitement and appreciation. The psychological impact extends beyond mere sightseeing. When you explore new environments together, you naturally encounter small challenges and novel situations that accelerate bonding. Navigating transportation, trying new foods, or handling unexpected weather creates a form of stress inoculation where successfully overcoming minor obstacles together strengthens your connection. This shared adventure also reveals important compatibility factors that might otherwise take months to discover. How does she handle unexpected changes? Does she maintain a positive attitude when things don't go perfectly? Are your energy levels and interests compatible? A weekend trip reveals more about these crucial compatibility factors than dozens of restaurant dates ever could. Planning these trips requires thoughtful consideration of boundaries and expectations. The most successful approach involves collaborative planning rather than presenting the entire trip as a done deal. Ask about her dream destinations within the Philippines and why they appeal to her. This conversation itself creates anticipation and demonstrates your genuine interest in her preferences. Timing matters tremendously. Suggesting overnight travel too early in your relationship can create uncomfortable pressure. For new relationships, day trips to nearby destinations provide the benefits of shared experiences without crossing comfort boundaries. As trust develops, weekend getaways become appropriate, followed by longer adventures. Accommodation arrangements should reflect the current status of your relationship. In the early stages, separate rooms demonstrate respect for boundaries while still enabling the shared experience. Being explicit about these arrangements in advance removes potential anxiety and shows your understanding of appropriate pacing. The financial aspect requires sensitivity. While you may be covering most expenses, finding small ways for her to contribute preserves dignity and partnership. Perhaps she handles researching local transportation options or planning certain activities. This collaborative approach transforms the experience from a one-sided gift into a shared adventure where both partners contribute. The long-term impact of these shared travel experiences extends far beyond the trips themselves. They create a repository of shared memories and inside jokes that strengthen your unique connection. Neurologically, these shared positive experiences become foundational elements of your relationship narrative, influencing how you both perceive your compatibility and future potential. To maximize the effectiveness of this approach, balance structured activities with unplanned time. While guided tours and scheduled experiences have their place, the most meaningful moments often emerge during unstructured conversations while walking along a beach or sharing a meal with a spectacular view. These unplanned interactions reveal authentic personality and values. This strategy creates a powerful contrast effect when compared to her previous relationship experiences. While local boyfriends might have promised these trips someday, your ability to transform these dreams into reality demonstrates both commitment and capability. This contrast enhances your perceived value without requiring any direct comparison. What's particularly fascinating is how these shared experiences take on new meaning when introduced to her family circle, a dimension of relationship building that reveals surprising cultural insights we'll explore in our next section. Family introduction, cultural evaluation. That contrast in your perceived value becomes even more pronounced when you understand the true significance of family in Philippine relationships. When a Filipina invites you to meet her family, she's initiating a deeply significant cultural evaluation that many Western men completely misread. This single invitation carries more relationship weight than 6 months of dating would in most Western countries. For most foreign men, this invitation seems like a nice milestone, perhaps similar to meeting parents back home after several months of serious dating. But in Filipino culture, this moment represents a fundamental shift in how you're perceived by her family and entire social circle. It transforms you from a casual interest to a potential lifetime partner. The power of this cultural touchpoint stems from the central position family holds in Filipino decision-making. Unlike individualistic Western cultures, where personal choice dominates, Filipino relationship decisions intertwine with family approval and guidance. This creates an entirely different relationship framework, where the family unit forms the foundation of all major life decisions. At the heart of this dynamic lies the concept of pamumuhay, the complete integration of a partner into the family system. When invited into this process, you're evaluated as a potential new family member who will influence the collective future of the entire unit. Not merely as a romantic partner, understanding the family structure provides crucial context for navigating this terrain. The hierarchy begins with the elders, grandparents, and parents whose assessments carry tremendous weight. Their evaluation of your character and compatibility can either clear your path or create insurmountable barriers. Meanwhile, siblings often serve as valuable confidants and advocates who can help translate cultural nuances and provide insight into family dynamics invisible to outsiders. They speak their minds and offer advice with the couple's best interests in mind, even when this guidance might appear intrusive by Western standards. Beyond the immediate family, extended members, aunts, uncles, and cousins form another evaluation layer. Their collective judgment contributes to your overall acceptance, creating a comprehensive assessment that spans beyond your relationship with your Filipina partner. When preparing for this pivotal meeting, proper etiquette becomes essential. Bringing a thoughtful gift acknowledges respect for their home and hospitality. Food items or small tokens from your home country demonstrate both thoughtfulness and cultural exchange. As one expatriate in Manila shared, "When I brought specialty chocolates from my hometown to my girlfriend's family gathering, her mother's face lit up. That small gesture transformed me from the foreigner she's dating to the thoughtful man who respects our home." The shift was immediate and tangible. Communication style makes an equally significant statement. Using respectful language with elders, including proper titles like po and opo, signals your understanding of family hierarchy. The effort itself communicates your willingness to adapt to Filipino cultural norms, even if your pronunciation isn't perfect. Regarding physical behavior, maintaining appropriate distance, offering help with household tasks, and showing genuine interest in family stories all indicate your understanding of this cultural moment's seriousness. These actions authentically demonstrate your willingness to participate in the family system. Now let's examine the challenges that often arise during this integration process. One significant hurdle for Western men involves navigating family advice about the relationship. While Western culture might view parental input as intrusive, Filipino family members consider guidance their responsibility. The key is learning to receive this input graciously, while establishing appropriate boundaries, hearing them out, or politely declining their suggestions. The timing of family introductions also carries significant cultural implications. While Western relationships might delay family meetings, Filipino relationships often integrate family earlier in the timeline. Some Filipinas might invite you to meet their family after just a few dates, signaling strong interest rather than rushing the relationship. This accelerated timeline frequently confuses Western men who misinterpret early family introductions as premature. In Filipino culture, family integration isn't the final relationship step. It's often one of the first meaningful ones, initiating the evaluation process that determines whether the relationship can progress. Considering this cultural difference, premature reluctance to meet family can severely damage your relationship prospects. When a Western man postpones family introductions, his Filipina partner often interprets this as indicating a lack of serious intentions. The most successful cross-cultural relationships acknowledge and adapt to these differences rather than resisting them. Language barriers present another common challenge. Many Filipino families, particularly in provincial areas, may have limited English proficiency. Successful foreign partners view this as an opportunity to demonstrate patience and adaptability. By learning basic Tagalog phrases, using translation apps, and engaging non-verbally through genuine smiles and attentive body language. Furthermore, differences in hospitality expectations can create misunderstandings. Filipino families typically demonstrate extreme generosity toward guests, often preparing elaborate meals and refusing to let visitors help with household tasks. Accepting this generosity graciously, while finding appropriate ways to express gratitude, becomes an important balancing act. The significance of these family interactions cannot be overstated. Family approval effectively determines whether a relationship continues or ends. As Filipinas typically place family as their top priority, and rarely make life-changing decisions without their guidance, this integration process extends beyond formal meetings to include incorporating her family's needs into your relationship planning. Demonstrating awareness of important family events, remembering birthdays, and acknowledging family milestones all signal your understanding of her priorities. For many Western men, this family-centric approach requires a significant mindset shift, recognizing family involvement not as interference, but as an integral part of Filipino relationship structure that provides support, guidance, and community when navigated respectfully, restraint, and respect. Final evaluation. Traditional Filipino courtship, known as panliligaw, offers powerful insights into why physical restraint creates attraction. Dating back to the Spanish colonial era, different regions developed their own courtship expressions, from the Ilocano tapat, love songs, to Cebuano balak, love verses. These traditions highlight a fundamental cultural difference. Courtship develops through multiple stages, demonstrating genuine interest rather than physical advances. Beyond family acceptance lies perhaps the most counterintuitive element of Filipino dating culture. Most foreign men make a critical mistake by applying Western physical escalation techniques, never realizing that showing restraint would dramatically increase their success rate with Filipinas. The stages of traditional panliligaw reveal a deliberate progression that prioritized respect over physical intimacy. This approach created a foundation of trust before any significant physical contact occurred. This more subdued approach reflects local sensibilities, where direct approaches, particularly those focused on physical intimacy, were considered inappropriate and indicative of dishonorable intentions. While technology has transformed modern dating in the Philippines, with instant messaging replacing traditional serenading and dating apps accelerating connections, the underlying values remain influential. The cultural expectation of restraint persists, especially among women raised with traditional values. Understanding this dynamic gives you a significant advantage over men who assume Western physical escalation techniques apply universally. I remember meeting an American who had fallen for a woman named Maria from Davao. Initially frustrated by what he perceived as mixed signals, he later realized Maria was responding positively to his patience. When I stopped trying to escalate physically and focused on meaningful conversations instead, everything changed, he told me. Their relationship flourished precisely because he respected her boundaries, eventually leading to marriage built on mutual trust. Restraint is particularly powerful in the Philippines because it contrasts with most foreign men's approach. When visitors signal sexual interest early, the man who demonstrates patience and focuses on emotional connection immediately stands out. This distinction triggers what psychologists call the principle of perceived value. We naturally desire what seems harder to obtain. Public displays of affection in the Philippines reveal this cultural distinction clearly. In this predominantly religious society, couples limit physical affection to wholesome gestures. Hand-holding and arm-linking are acceptable, while more intimate displays are viewed as inappropriate in public settings. This represents pagalang, a concept of deep respect that permeates all aspects of Filipino relationships. The principle of pagalang extends beyond simple politeness. It encompasses showing deference to elders, valuing family connections, maintaining proper etiquette, and respecting physical and emotional boundaries. When foreign men disregard these boundaries by pushing for physical intimacy too quickly, they signal disrespect for Filipino cultural values or interest only in casual encounters. Traditional courtship emphasized demonstrating sincere affection through non-physical means. Men invested significant time proving their intentions before any physical relationship developed. By adopting elements of this approach, you signal serious intentions that align with traditional Filipino values. At its core, respectful restraint builds trust. When you avoid pushing physical boundaries, you create space for emotional connection to develop naturally. This doesn't mean showing no interest. Rather, it means allowing physical intimacy to evolve as a natural expression of growing emotional connection. This distinction is crucial for success in Filipino dating. Balancing interest with respect requires skillful navigation. Show interest through compliments, attention, and emotional engagement, while respecting boundaries. Small appropriate gestures, a hand on the shoulder, brief hand-holding, or a goodbye hug can communicate interest without crossing cultural lines. The key is progression that follows her comfort level rather than pushing for more intimate contact. The communication about boundaries benefits from indirect approaches. Pay attention to nonverbal cues and subtle signals rather than explicit discussions that might create awkwardness. If she moves away during contact, recognize this as a boundary signal. If she initiates small physical contacts, this indicates growing comfort that you can reciprocate appropriately. Regional variations exist. Urban centers like Manila may have somewhat more relaxed attitudes than provincial areas, but restraint remains appreciated everywhere. In more traditional provincial settings, physical boundaries tend to be more conservative, with community observation playing a significant role in regulating behavior. For men accustomed to Western dating norms, where physical escalation signals interest, this adjustment challenges conventional wisdom. Western dating often treats physical escalation as necessary to avoid the friend zone. This creates a fundamental disconnect in the Philippines, where restraint signals serious intentions rather than lack of interest. This cultural difference extends to conversation topics as well. Similar discretion applies to verbal communication. Conversations with sexual undertones often create discomfort in Filipino contexts. Focusing conversation on getting to know her as a person, her interests, values, family, and dreams demonstrates genuine interest beyond physical attraction. Building a strong foundation before physical intimacy creates relationships with greater potential for long-term success. When physical intimacy develops from established emotional connection and mutual respect, it becomes an extension of the relationship rather than its foundation. This approach aligns with traditional Filipino values while creating healthier relationship dynamics. For men seeking meaningful relationships, this cultural expectation of restraint serves their interests. By focusing on emotional connection and demonstrating respect through appropriate boundaries, you signal interest in the person rather than merely physical gratification. This approach attracts partners looking for similar depth and commitment. Men who understand and implement this approach gain significant advantages. They stand out from the majority who push boundaries too quickly. They attract women seeking serious relationships. They demonstrate cultural understanding that builds trust with both the woman and her family. Finally, they establish patterns of respect and communication that serve the relationship long term. This power of restraint extends to online interactions as well, in initial messaging and video calls. Avoiding sexually suggestive comments demonstrates respect that distinguishes you from most online pursuers. This digital restraint creates the same positive impression as physical restraint in person, often determining whether meaningful conversation develops or ends abruptly. So there you have it. The first-timer advantage represents a golden opportunity that won't last forever. This initial impression creates a unique window for connection that simply can't be recreated on subsequent visits. The novelty wears off quickly, which is why understanding Filipino cultural values becomes essential. Your genuine interest in Filipino culture forms the foundation of successful relationships. When you demonstrate respect, you open doors to meaningful connections that can truly change your life. In our next video, we'll explore maintaining these connections across distance, including daily video rituals and navigating time zone differences. Subscribe now to ensure these powerful strategies help your relationship flourish, even from afar.